last night we got the news that Bray Wyatt has passed away, and this was shocking to say the least. Which one of you guys would like to go first? Dave, do
I,
you want to lead off about
I,
Bray Wyatt?
I'll go because this is a little different. With Terry, it's sad. Terry was one of the greats, and as AJ says, that's part of our childhood, which is, going fast. But with Bray, on a human level, this man wasn't supposed to die yet. All right, he's younger than us. And it's one of those things when I see pictures of like his wife and his kids, and it's cliche almost, but my heart just goes out to them. Like, this is a guy so creative. You hear about all the time behind the scenes. And really, again, drawing the comparison a little bit here to like what AJ was talking about with Terry in our childhood, that's our childhood. So it's a little easier to, get wrapped up in things like that. Bray is one of those performers that, despite the fact that me and AJ would probably tell you we're both a little jaded at times, he could still wrap you in. And I know this run wasn't the biggest run, but when he initially came back at Extreme Rules and in the promo he did on SmackDown, I remember thinking, like, this guy's got the potential to be the biggest thing ever. And it's just wild and it's crazy. And he's one of those guys that we loved him. And then sometimes he'd get stuck in doing things we didn't necessarily like creative, but we always rooted for him. And we always couldn't wait till he'd come back. And we were, even just recently as a week ago, we were so excited because we heard the rumors were he was going to come back. And just to see this happen, it just feels, like a gut shot.
It's a little bit different than Jeff Hardy, because Jeff Hardy is one of those people who has had his problems with drugs and his demons or whatever. But I put them in the same thought process now because it hurts to know or not know what could have been. And that's the difference between him and Terry Funk. Is with Terry Funk, it's a part of our childhood that's now gone. We miss that. But this is one of those stars where he was so creative, so able to go in the ring. You just wonder. We know he had been dealing with health issues. We know he was apparently on the upswing from what we read in reports that were released with the knowledge of the family, that it was ended up being a heart attack because he had gotten ill with COVID, from what I believe.
He had exacerbated issues from COVID.
Yeah.
Exacerbated heart issues. He was starting to return. He was on the road to recovery. They were looking forward to him possibly coming back. And then yesterday, out of nowhere, he got a heart attack.
And you got to remember, that is something that a little bit runs in the family, because Barry Windham, who is his uncle, has had multiple heart attacks. It's sad. It's really one of those cases of we'll never know. Similar to, I know you remember years ago when Art Barr passed away. Art Barr was one of those people that was extremely creative, and you just never know what passed away, what could have been. And at the end of the day, this is a young man who at 36 years old was a father, a husband. Yeah. And as much as we love the wrestling and don't know what could have been, we also don't know what could have been for his personal life and for his family. And my heart goes out to them, and I wish them the best.
Absolutely.
What I thought was toughest about this was Bray Wyatt was such an original thinker in wrestling when things are so formulaic. If you look back now on his cinematic match with John Cena at WrestleMania, one of the wildest things. And he took things he was interested in, horror movies, heavy metal, different influences on him, and created his own thing. And I think it was tough because for some of that time, people were really putting down the presentation of the Firefly Funhouse or how Bray was being used. And I hope now that he's gone, people will kind of respect that outside of the box thinking and celebrate it. And I just want to mention it here because from Riot Pro Josh last week, and we want to say Princess Josh, who we talk to from time to time, taking this hard. And I think that's because Bray was kind of like that mascot for those that weren't like mainstream accepted. He was almost underground, and people, juggalos, people like that, the fringes of society kind of really gravitated towards that. So it's tough to see Bray go.
Well, I think it's times like this. You mentioned Terry Funk and the tape from the Juggalos earlier.
Oh yeah.
It's people like this who really keep you asking who's going chicken hunting.
Hey, I will say this. I had talked about believability earlier with Terry Funk, and Bray dipped into that supernatural so much, right? But if you look at original formula, the Wyatt family, when they came over, him, Harper, Rowan, and they had that creepy swamp guy, almost an evangelist cult leader like, right? And that was done with a really good sense of realism too. And if you think about like big angles from like the last 10, 15 years or so, not our childhood, not the 80s, early 90s, I can't help but think there was a point at a time when wrestling really maybe had me disenchanted a little bit. There was a group called The Shield and a group called the Wyatt family, and they were built really strong, and they faced off. And it was the first time before it became catchy that you had these two groups standing off with each other before they even touched, and everybody was chanting, "This is awesome." So the guy could go, and he had that sense of realism too.
I think we can agree that when it comes to the Shield, they've all reached their potential.
Absolutely.
They've all gone to where we thought that they would go. If there's one thing that the WWE dropped the ball on over the last decade, I think they dropped the ball with the Wyatt family. Luke Harper could have been much bigger than what he was. Sure. Tremendous wrestler. And then, of course, Bray Wyatt. I think if they would have kept him more towards the original Bray Wyatt and a little less towards the Fiend side, I think they were looking for marketability, quite frankly, with children and stuff like that. But if they had stuck with that, I think they could have gone a lot farther.
So here's something I saw recently, too, unfortunately, from a while back. Makes it a little more sad. One of the reasons why Bray actually stayed away from that original character was out of loyalty and respect to Harper, because that was kind of their thing. And he didn't feel like he could go on doing that anymore without Harper by his side.
Which is understandable.
Yeah. So I think great guy. That says a lot about him. Go ahead, Joe.
Yep, that's what I was about to say. Now, WWE is, I guess, increasing royalty sales for Bray Wyatt's merchandise to help support his family. So if you want to help out a family in need, you can go get Bray Wyatt gear there and support them.